And after last week's little detour into something other than Hoyas, we're back on track this week. So join me with a tasty beverage of your choice close to hand while we take a look at some 3 and 6 month Hoya updates. And before we get started, I'd like to take this opportunity to send out a special thanks to Amber, who bought me coffees this last week. Your contributions to my channel go a long way in helping keep me in Hoya, Dischidia, the other stuff, technology and infrastructure, and it's very important to the channel. So thank you very much for your support. And I've got a correction to something I said last week. When I was getting ready to film, I couldn't find my aglaonema Maria, and I found a plant, and I was pretty sure it was Maria, but I got these at a time before I started tagging everything. So the plant I showed was this lovely one, and this is actually aglaonema saber, long sword-like leaves, very pretty, very nice. But this one is aglaonema Maria. So if you were looking for what I showed last week, it's saber, sometimes called cutlass, but I bought it under the name saber. But another gorgeous aglaonema is aglaonema Maria. Sorry about the confusion, but that's why you put tags in all your plants. And we've got a couple things in bloom this week. The first one up is my Hoya scortichini. And we're going to see if I can get those blossoms in focus. They are very pretty. It was labeled as Hoya scortichini pink, and the only pink part I see is that very center of the corona. But I still think that's very, very pretty. And I've got some close-ups over here, I know, because I took them before I sat down to film. So this is a really pretty plant. It was a little slow to get going, but then, like most Hoyas, it needed to get settled in. And once it did, it's been growing up a storm. Really nice plant, very pretty blooms. It took a while for it to bloom, but I'm not sure whether that's me or just this particular plant, but yeah. That's very cool. The other one that is blooming is one of my Hoya mirabilis. And let's see if I can do this well. There we go. I hope that focuses. This is just a favorite of mine. I like the growth habit of this plant. It's just kind of funky and weird, and it just appeals to me. This is the one that got shipped from Hawaii. And I literally think, and I've told the story before, but I literally think they took the plant in the pot and just put it in a box, taped it up and sent it off, because when it arrived, there was a loose dish, there was a loose plant, and there was a whole lot of really, really, really wet soil. I was going to say wet soil, it was mud. And I despaired of this plant surviving, but it has done very well. Matter of fact, it needs some attention, because that's, those are they're just doing great. This one lives back on this shelf, usually in this back corner. And it's got, at this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 8 or 9 peduncles that are in bud. So that's very cool. They tend to be rather pendant peduncles. But yeah, very nice. I should have some close-ups over here on the side as well, because I took them at the same time as I took the others. But yeah, very neat leaves, very cool look to the whole thing. I have one that I have trailing, and I have one that this one clearly is the one I have climbing. I kind of like it climbing up on a flat trellis. I just like the look of that. So I may This is a good height because it fits on that shelf really well. And if I put it on a half optimistic trellis, it would be too tall. But maybe I can maybe get another length of trellis, get one that's a little bit taller, we'll see. Anyway, this is Hoya mirabilis. And the first one here for 3 months is Hoya Minahase. Now, Minahase is native to the island of Sulawesi in Indonesia, and it was first published in 1916 in Beihefte zum Botanischen Centralblatt, Abschnitt 2, Systematik Pflanzengeographie angewandt Botanik, which is Supplements to the Botanical Central Journal, Section 2, Systematics, Plant Geography, and Applied Botany, by Friedrich Richard Rudolf Schlechter. And the note on the herbarium sheet says Celebes, which is the old name for Sulawesi, and yeah, so. This came as a bunch of cuttings, and I should have an arrival picture over here because I've been trying to be good at that. I hope I'm not fibbing, but anyway. A bunch of cuttings, and I settled it into self-watering, and this is a mix of pon and pumice. And it looks like some of the vines have gotten their footing and have settled in. This one is looking a little dry, so maybe its roots haven't quite found their home yet. But the blooms on this are supposed to be beautiful. I haven't seen them yet, otherwise I would show you pictures. But it's done well for only 3 months. This is when I would expect it to start putting out some growth after the trauma of the shipment and repotting and everything else. So yeah, this is done pretty well. I'm pleased. There seems to be a new vine here. There's a couple other new little signs of growth, so that's very cool. I'm looking forward to this one. We'll take another look in another 3 months. But yeah, this one came from Plant Haven, Toronto, and this is Hoya Minahase. And the next one that's been here for 3 months is my Hoya campanulata. Now, this is formerly known as Hoya kistianta, but has been reclassified. Now, campanulata is native to Brunei, to Java at Kalimantan and Sumatra in Indonesia, and to Malaya, Sabah, and Sarawak in Malaysia, and was first published in 1827 in Bijdragen tot de Flora van Nederlands-Indië, or Contributions to the Flora of the Dutch Indies, by Carl Ludwig von Blume. And this one I got for the blooms, but the added bonus was that the leaves are beautiful too. Now, when this one showed up, it had these original leaves, which are not doing well, and, well, they aren't thriving. I could use a drink. Okay, we can address that. But it has since put out this new vine with new growth at the tip. And I should have a picture of what it looked like when it first arrived. I'm going to put that over here and give a few moments for it to show up and get seen. So it had a little bit of growth on the end of this vine, but that died off as a result of the shipping, which, happens. But again, it pushed out this new growth, and it's doing fairly well. The leaves are very, very beautiful. Soft. It's a thin-leafed Hoya with a slightly recessed central vein and raised side veins. It's got a nice little bit of splash on those leaves. And yeah, and the blooms are, as you might expect with the name campanulata, are bell-shaped, but they're kind of flattened a little bit. So yeah, I don't have anything that has bloomed with that kind of a blossom yet, so I thought I would give this one a try. And so far, it's done pretty well. It's pretty enough, nice enough looking. It's growing, it looks healthy. I do need to give it a drink when I'm done with this. and we'll see what we can make out of this. But yeah, no complaints, no trauma, no drama. It's doing fairly well. It's currently living, where do I have this one now? Over here on the bottom of one of my 2 grow setups. So it's approximately 20 to 24 inches or about 60 centimeters below the grow light. And it seems to be doing okay. I may move it to a slightly lower light level since it's growing up a storm. I mean, you know, that's pretty good in a short time. And I don't want it to get pale, and I don't want it to get up into the lights and get burned. So I may find a new home for this. I think because it's a thin-leafed Hoya and it's growing the way that Loki and Decipule and Multiflora grow, that I might just kind of, rather than trellising it, just kind of direct it upwards a bit. It doesn't strike me as being a trailing kind of Hoya, nor does it strike me as taking well to a trellis, but some guidance, direction might be helpful for it, as with many young things. So yeah, as I said, no problems, no issues. It's doing really well. It settled in without too much difficulty. And as long as I remember to water it, it probably got, I'm looking over at the shelf wondering where it was that I didn't catch it. But we're going to try that again, and we're going to rectify that and give this one a little drink, get it back going again. So yeah, this one came from Plant Haven, Toronto. And this is Hoya campanulata, formerly known as Kistiantha. And next up for 3 months is my little Dischidia, dolichantha. Now, dolichantha is native to Brunei, to Kalimantan and Sumatra in Indonesia, to Malaya, Sabah, and Sarawak in Malaysia. And it was first published in 1908 in the Botanische Jahrbucher für Systematik, Pflanzengeschichte und Pflanzengeographie, or the Botanical Yearbooks for Systematics, Plant History, and Plant Geography by Friedrich Richard Rudolf Schlechter. And the note on the herbarium sheet says Sumatra, so that's probably where it was originally found by Westerners. This is a very, very cute little Dischidia, and there is some new growth on that, which is very, very cool. We've got about an inch, so maybe 2.5 centimeters of new vine, and then another set of leaves. So yes, I'm very, very excited about that. It came as an unrooted cutting, and I've been rooting it in my, what is typical for me, a cup which needs a drink, which means he does, and some pumice is what I've been using lately because it's very lightweight. And set this up as a self-watering pot, and then, where's my little, there we go, and just give it a drink. The pumice will hold a certain amount of moisture in it, all its nooks and crannies, just like an English muffin. And it's doing very well, so we're happy about this. It's you know, I love Dischidia. It's tough for me to show this, but the back of the leaves are pubescent also, and kind of a red color. So I think when this gets going, it's going to be a very, very pretty plant. Are those? No, those are okay, just adventitious roots. So yeah, so this is Hoya. Hoya, keep doing that. This came from Planting with Wine on Etsy, and this is Dischidia dolichantha. And another 3-month denizen of the plant room, the Hoya room, is Dischidia acuminata. Now, acuminata is native to Cambodia, to South Central and Southeast China, to Thailand and Vietnam, and it was first published in 1912 in Flora Générale de l'Indochine by Julien Noël Constantin. And the notes on the herbarium sheet say Indochina, so that's the Thailand, Vietnam part, but primarily Vietnam. This has done very well for me so far. I should have a picture over here of what it looked like when it arrived. And it arrived with those two leaves and has since put out these two leaves, these two leaves, these two leaves, and I had to extricate it from one of the grids on a plant shelf that had found. So yeah, he's ready to make the move into his own self-watering pot, and I think definitely an optimistic trellis. This one, for some reason, reminds me a bit, this is acuminata, of GPS 88, and that's what this is. The veins on 88 at this point seem much more pronounced. But I think this one's going to be very pretty. I have another one, a different Dischidia, that's got similar shaped leaves, and it's doing fairly well. Hold on, let me go get it. And this is my Dischidia acutifolia. So there's a sort of family resemblance. I love this. That's just gorgeous. So, yeah. This had grown. This has turned into an aggressive grower. It had grown up through the bottom of the shelf above it and was on a little adventure all his own. So, but this one has done very well also. I think the leaves are very pretty. They are, let's look at the old leaves. The old leaves seem plump. They are rigid, slightly raised central vein and some side veins, a little bit of a dark margin along the edge. I think when these leaves settle in, they're going to be quite pretty. So yeah, this is done, because that's probably 24 inches or about 60 centimeters. So yeah, that's very cool. This one also came from planting with wine, and this is Dischidia acuminata. And also here for 3 months is my Dischidia singularis. Now, singularis is native to Thailand and Vietnam, and it was first published in 1911 in Bulletin of Miscellaneous Information, Royal Gardens, Kew, by William Grant Crabe. And the note on the herbarium sheet says Siam, so that means that Westerners probably discovered it in Thailand. This came as a little 2-leaf unrooted cutting, and I should have a picture of it over here. And so with this one, I did my, oh my, that needs a drink. Let's fix that. My typical approach of putting the cuttings into a glass, some kind of vessel with cling film stretched over the top. I poke a few holes in and suspend them in there, and occasionally, apparently, forget to check for water. But this has been working really well for rooting things. So that's what I did with this one. And just last week, I noticed that there were roots coming out of the sides. They had decent little roots. And I thought, let's just move it into pond and self-watering right now. So typical thing, settled it in. There's some moisture in the bottom, but actually the moisture in the bottom is not doing much for this. So every couple of days, I just come in and give it a little bit of a drink to make sure that there's nutrient solution in this part of the pot. So it's doing well. The leaves look very good. It doesn't seem to have suffered too much transplant shock. I think the leaves are really neat. It may be tough to see. I should have some close-ups of the leaves, but they have this very long, narrow leaf that kind of bulges out and then comes back down to a point toward the end. So yeah, fingers crossed for this one. It's done pretty well. It was just a nice steady rooter, not a speedy rooter, because it took a good couple of months to really put out some roots and get settled in. I had it in a really good location. It was getting decent light. It was in nutrient solution, so it had a good setup. It just took it a while to get going. So patience can sometimes be a virtue. As my mother said, patience is a virtue, possess it if you can, often found in women and seldom found in man. Yes, well, yeah, Mom and I discussed that on occasion. Anyway, this is done really well. I'm glad it's now in its own little long-term care facility, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed. This one also came from planting with wine, and this is Dischidia singularis. And now the Hoya and their relatives who've been here for 6 months. And the first one is my Hoya serpens. Now, serpens is native to India, to the Andaman Islands and the East Himalayas, and to Nepal. And it was introduced to Australia, to Queensland, Australia. So, hope it's doing well there. It was first published in 1883 in the Flora of British India by Joseph Dalton Hooker. And as I've told the story, I was very hesitant about getting this because I'd heard all kinds of horror stories. That it was difficult and it was a struggle bus plant from the get-go, and that's not been my experience. Now, granted, I did buy a rooted plant, not just a cutting. So there is some moisture in the bottom of this pot. But again, it's a small plant, so every couple of days I go in and do the little thing where I squirt some moisture up there just to make sure that the roots that I know are there get to the moisture. It's put out about 1.5 inches, which is about 4 centimeters worth of growth. It arrived with a peduncle. The peduncle is still in there. It has not bloomed yet. We're fine. We're okay with that. And yeah, it's doing rather well. So I have been, because of everything I'd heard about it being difficult and not liking to dry out at all, it is a small plant, so it can dry out quickly, all that enters in. But it's doing so much better than I expected that, yeah, I don't have any complaints with this. It reminds me a lot of my Wenshonensis, which is supposedly related to it. That was known as species affinity serpens. Yes. And I don't know that it's been published as Wenshonensis yet, but yeah, I've seen it referred to that. So anyway, this has done really well for 6 months. This one came from Hoya Treasures on their website, and this is my Hoya serpens. And now we're on to my Hoya elegantha. Now, Hoya elegantha is native to New Guinea, and it was first published in 1913 in the Botanische Jahrbuch für Systematik, Pflanzengeschichte und Pflanzengeographie by Friedrich Richard Rudolf Schlechter. And I should have a picture of what this one looked like when it showed up. And yeah, it's done well. I'm very happy with this. This is pretty much all new growth on this vine, and there's some new growth on this vine. And I think those leaves are just beautiful. I like the growth habit. I thought about sending it up, which could look very pretty. Right now, I'm letting it not cascade, but send it forth. And I may, space reasons, I may just end up sending it up anyway. Maybe something similar to the Mirabilis with just a flat trellis in the back, because I think that would look kind of nice. And, you know, my space problem. What we all need, time and space and staff. So yeah, that's what I may do with this, but it's grown really well for 6 months. I don't see any signs of rootage yet, but I would think because of the growth, it's clearly probably found the wick, or at least the internal wicking system has started to work for it. So yeah, I think that's very pretty. I was on a kick for this shaped leaf for a while, and so yeah, Leucantha, Pauciflora, Oligantha, they all showed up. I'm just pleased with that. I think it's going to be really pretty. So yeah, no trouble, no trauma, no drama. This one is currently living up on that top shelf in the back over there in front of my AH074, which is getting ready to bloom for the first time. We're excited about that. So it gets about that much light on a regular basis, pond and self-watering, and it's doing well. So this one came from my friends at the North Austin Plant Company, and you can find them on Palm Street. And this is Hoya Oligantha. And also here for 6 months is my Hoya boycei. Now, boycei is native to Brunei, to the Balate district, to Bukit Batu Patam, then the lower slopes of that hill near the Sungai Ingai at a height of 70 meters. It was first collected in 1989 and published in Gardens Bulletin in 2022 by Michaela Rhoda and Sri Rahayu. This is my second try with boycei. I got a cutting from a different seller, and it was a little cutting, and it tried, it really did. But I think it was probably a combination if it was too little a cutting to really be happily viable, and it probably needed much more humid environment than I was giving it. So it didn't survive, but I found a rooted plant, and this has just grown so well. Very happy. There is new growth here. There is new growth here. There's a new vine coming out of the base. It looks, is that a peduncle? It's either a peduncle or a new vine. Of course, I'm rooting for peduncle, but new vine would be fine too. The leaves are firm for a small leafed, almost tiny leafed Hoya, slightly raised veins, sort of a very broad ovate shape, little point on the end. And this has gone very, very well. I'm dying to see if I can see what that is. I was hoping it was a peduncle, but I'm thinking it's just another vine, but that's okay. Since this one got settled in, is that another new? No. Since this one got settled in, it's been growing really, really well for me. I have it growing approximately 60 centimeters or 24 inches underneath my Sansi grow lights. As I said, pond and self-watering. And there are some signs of roots on the bottom of that pot. So that's probably what's helping quite a bit in his happy journey toward larger plantdom. Yeah, I hadn't even checked the roots yet. That was very cool. And it's pretty. I'm going to, I think, do that. Oh, let's try that. I might do the flat trellis on this one too. But I can, if I have a round trellis, I can wrap it around. I can wrap a longer plant and still keep it within the 24-inch field. So we'll see, but that's very, very pretty, very cute. Getting a rooted one made settling in and everything else so much easier. And I did the typical thing that I've explained a couple of times, but put it in the self-watering mix and give it a couple squirts of water every few days just to make sure there's moisture for it until it gets settled in. But now that it's clearly found the wick, he's on his own regular watering schedule with everybody else. So yeah, I'm psyched about this. That's very cool. Beautiful little leaves. So far been easy to grow. This one came from my friends at the North Austin Plant Company, and you can find them on Palm Street. And this is Hoya boycei. And next up for 6 months is my Hoya pauciflora. Now, pauciflora is native to Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Kerala in southern India, and to Sri Lanka. And it was first published in 1848 in Icones Plantarum Indiae Orientalis by Robert White. And this was part of that whole lancelet leaf kick I was on a few months ago. I think those two leaves that are still joined at the tip are kind of cool. Anyway, yeah, supposed to have very beautiful blossoms, which is of course part of the reason I got it. Also, I love those long leaves. And I moved it into a very pumice and pond mixture. It has not found, at least visibly found the root, the wick yet, nor the reservoir. But with that much new growth, that's almost an inch, so like 2.5, 3 centimeters. I think it's gotten to the moisture substrate, but it's done very, very well. The grower that sent me this uses a very pumicey mix, so the transition to the self-watering was very, very easy. And I did the typical, squirt, squirt thing. Get yourself some of these or one of these, and because you don't have to turn it upside down, you can keep it upright and squeeze. And that little tip lets you put the moisture right where you want it. So there's no need to soak the whole thing down once it's a process of getting settled. But yeah, this is just done really, really well. I'll have that same debate over trellis or trail, but I don't have to make that decision yet. It's just very, very neat. Very, very cool little plant so far. So yeah, no trauma, no drama, no difficulties. It did what it was supposed to do, and it seems to be doing it rather well. This one came from Hoya Treasures on Etsy, and this is Hoya pauciflora. And next up is my Hoya Kumingiana, variegated. Now, Kumingiana is native to Brunei, to Java and Kalimantan in Indonesia, and to Sabah and Sarawak in Malaysia, and to the Philippines. And it was first collected in 1841 by Hugh Cumming, Kumingiana, and published in 1844 in Prodomus Systematis Naturalis Regni Vegetabilis by Joseph Decane. And the remarks on the herbarium sheet say INS PHILIPP, so was probably discovered by Westerners in the Philippine Islands. And I always love sharing the story. Hugh Cumming was born in England, but he spent a number of years in Chile where he became very, very successful. And he used his money to buy and outfit a ship that was specifically designed to bring samples, specimens back to England. And he traveled extensively on collecting trips and brought back thousands of specimens to Great Britain. And his ship was the first to transport live orchids back. So that's very cool. No wonder you get a plant named after him. This one is very pretty. I should have a picture of what it looked like when it showed up. And it was a thank you present from a seller who I'd placed a good order with, and they included this as a little thank you. And I had a Hoya Kimingiana, the plain green one. Some of you may remember it. And we had kind of a love-hate relationship. I loved it, and then it grew really big and like that. And I didn't have a place for that. So I kind of settled it. It was up here for a while, and I was not happy. So I have it in a better location for it. It's rehabbing it. I'm cutting it back and rooting the cuttings to get a decent full plant. This one, I started off by putting it in a pot that's for hanging, self-watering pot. That's a hanging pot. Because I thought if I had a good place and I have one spot left for a hanging plant in the house, the hanging plant would solve that problem. So it has settled in. It has put out new growth. The leaves are, as I've shown you a couple times, the leaves are really pretty. And I just moved it to a new location. It was in my den in a west-facing window, but because of that angle, it was only getting a little bit of sun a day. So I just moved this into my bedroom to the west-facing window, southwest-facing window. So I think it's going to appreciate that additional light. But it's put out some new growth. So, I'm all kinds of happy about this. This is, I think, a full plant of this arcing, and that's going to be very pretty. I may start clipping it back as it starts to grow, just to make it fuller and to root up some of the cuttings. But yeah, I think it's going to be okay. This one came from Hoya Treasures on their website. Hoya Treasures on their website, and this is Hoya Kimingiana variegated. And now the question for the comments. First of all, thanks to everybody who took the time to comment with your weird ones from last week. I am still looking stuff up because you guys find stuff that I've never heard of. So that's always interesting. And there are a couple like, ooh, do I put that on the wish list or not? And some of them made it. So yeah, you may be seeing some of your weirdos showing up as my weirdos in the future. But the question for this week is, it's based on a question a man I used to work for used to pose to his customers. And he would say, in a perfect world where money is no object, what do you want? And then we would try and get as close to that as we possibly could. So that's kind of my question for you. In a perfect world where money is no object, what plant would you want to buy? Doesn't have to be a Hoya, but you're not even worrying about the price tag. It's not, well, that's really expensive. I shouldn't. What's your, sometimes called unicorn? What's your top wish list? What one would you get if you could just pick and say, oh, I need one of those, and it would just magically appear. You didn't have to pay for it. So yeah, let me know what that is. I have some ideas of what you're all going to say, but surprise me. Add that to the comments below. And I'd like to thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your time with me this week's end. Please remember to click that thumbs up like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. And if you're on a mobile device, when you're done looking at everything and adding your comments, click on that hype button to help promote my channel and get it shown to other people who could also enjoy it. Bring them into the collective. A lot of the products that you've seen me use are available through my Amazon storefront, and there's a QR code here, and there's also a link in the description if you'd like to visit the storefront. I receive a commission on the sales, but it doesn't increase your price at all and does help to support the channel. If you're in the market for grow lights, I have a relationship with Sansi, and if you use this QR code and my code at checkout, you can receive a 30% discount off the prices you find in the website. There is also a link in the description to that website. I've been happy with my Sansi grow lights so far, and I think they've made a big difference to some of the plants in my collection. If you'd like to support the channel directly, here's a QR code for my Buy Me a Coffee page. There is also a link in the description. Or if you'd like to work through YouTube, you can click on the thanks button down here, and YouTube handles all that processing. I gotta find a different word to learn how to say that, one or the other. I'm gonna put links to a few more videos over here on the side, and please enjoy the rest of your week's end.